Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan, and so glad to have you along with us. As we do the last show in July. The next time I'm here in the studio, it will be for the first show in August. So what does that mean? It means you better take advantage of the rest of the summer that is left still out there. In my neck of the woods, the kids go back to school in about 3 weeks. I think it's crazy to have them go back that early. Whatever happened to you can't go back, public schools can't go back till after Labor Day. Whatever happened to that? So the point is, summertime is quickly slipping away. It's quickly passing by. And I would encourage you to take advantage of every opportunity that's out there. I've been fishing, and I've been golfing. Well, and I've been mowing the lawn, too. Several really good fishing trips in the last week since we have last talked. Last weekend, I had 2 charity charters, one for the Arc of Midland and one for the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. The day before that, the Friday before that, I wanted to go out and make sure there was still some fish in my skinny water, so my grandson Trent jumped on board the Angler Quest with me. We made a couple passes through that skinny water, and aside from fighting some weeds, we found some fish. So I was relatively confident for those 2 trips over the weekend. And we did get fish on both trips. Had great cruise, a lot of fun, decent number of fish. It is starting to slow down now out there for me in the water that I fish. A lot of the fish have moved way out deep. Now, I could make the run out there to get to them, but I just have a really hard time driving by an area that I know is holding fish to go find more fish. And there have been, throughout the summer, pretty good size fish in there. Now, the last few trips in there, I haven't seen the number of bigger fish. I think those, and maybe they just weren't active when I was in there. And that's the thing about walleye. They shut off and on like a light switch. If I could ever figure out what it is that triggers them to start feeding, I'd be a very happy guy. I would also be a very happy guy if I could design a new fishing lure. I want to be like the Romanex. They designed this PWC, this precise walleye crank, which I have a few of them, and I run them, and they're great baits. And they run true, and they're easy to tune, and they've got good, substantial, real hooks on them that you're not going to bend and twist when you take them out of a fish. And here's something else I've been thinking about, too. I've had people suggest to me, I use a lot of flicker minnows. This time of year, number 7 flicker minnows. And they're cheap, meaning they're inexpensive. They're cheap, meaning they're cheaply made. And they have cheap hooks on them. But they catch fish. So what do you want a bait to do? You want a bait to catch fish. And the flicker minnows catch fish. So what you can do is, after you catch a couple fish on those cheap, sharp, soft stock hooks, is replace them with real hooks. There's nothing you can do about the cheap build of the plastic bill breaking off the bait except to swap out to another bait. But again, they're inexpensive. So if you don't want to spend a lot of money on baits and you want them to catch fish, I think these are a good choice. If you're looking for something that's going to last, well, then find something else. But my question about the hooks is, somebody suggested, in fact, Lance Valentine of Walleye 101 was one of them. He said, take the front hooks off those flicker minnows. He said, you will have far fewer tangles in the net. It won't affect the action of the lure. And you don't miss fish. He said he doesn't feel like he has hits that he doesn't hook up on, excuse me, or he doesn't have fish that come unbuttoned, that come off the hook. So here's my question for you. If you have run those baits and you have taken the front hook off, what has your experience been? Send me an email. Would you please let me know? Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I haven't had a chance to do it yet. So I'm thinking my next trip out, and like I say, it's starting to slow down out there for me. But I think my next trip out, I'm going to take all the baits on one side of the boat and take the front hook off and see if it seems to make a difference. In theory, if you've only got one hook, you shouldn't get tangled up in the net as much. There's one fewer hook to get into somebody's fingers, but there's also one less hook to hook up the fish. But we run spoons with just one hook, right? And they catch fish. Let me know if you have any thoughts on that, or if you think I spend entirely too much time worrying about hooks on flicker minnows. Let me know that as well. Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't forget about getting your fall turkey tag here in Michigan. Now, you might say, well, I really don't go out and hunt turkeys in Michigan. In the fall, I'm more of a deer hunter. I'm more of a bear hunter. I'm an upland bird hunter. Well, and I realize turkeys are kind of considered upland birds, but I consider upland birds to be grouse, woodcock, pheasant, but not so much turkeys. Anyway, you know, while you are out there in the woods this fall, bear hunting or deer hunting, you are going to have birds walk by you. It happens to me every year. So why not have that fall tag in your pocket? The fall tag is for either sex. You can shoot a bearded bird or a hen. The season runs, I thought it was October 1st, but I'm being told it starts September 15th and it runs through November 14th. So you got plenty of time. Why not have that fall turkey tag in your pocket? I am looking forward to the fall bear season. I've been talking to my buddy Johnny Bowler. In fact, as we're doing a live stream in the studio right now, Johnny just came on. Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer. I have the third season for the Newberry District. I will be hunting over near Seney. And looking forward to it. I'm going back and forth now. I'm debating, do I want to hunt with that Michigan-made 350 Legend with a suppressor, or do I want to use a crossbow? The crossbow happens to be made in Ohio. I like the concept of bow hunting. I consider a crossbow to be archery tackle. You might not. You might think they are the devil's tool. That's fine. If you feel that way, that's fine. As long as you don't tell me I can't hunt with one, we're good. So we'll see. Going back and forth there. The first annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp is just around the corner now. Monday, July 29th. Now, if you're listening to the podcast version of this, you might actually be hearing this after the event. But as we're here in the studio right now, I'm very excited. It's coming together nicely. We have a full field of golfers. We have a beautiful course hosting us. That's the West Branch Country Club, of course, in West Branch. We've got some great sponsors, some great giveaways. From Jay's, from Rec Broadheads, from Brent Schinkel made a custom rod, Rapid River Knives, a Primal Blind, plus all the usual stuff. I'm really looking forward to this. And to be able to do an event that raises money for a cause like MUCC's youth camp. When the concept of a golf outing came up, I said, yeah, well, and somebody said, you can raise money on those. And I went, oh, well, that's interesting. I don't want to make any money on it, but if we can raise money for some cause, people said, oh, yeah, those are fundraisers. And I thought, what can we raise money for that is outdoor related? Because if I'm going to be involved in a cause to raise money, it's either going to be, well, for my church, Trinity Monitor, or an outdoor related effort. And if you can combine that with getting kids involved in the outdoors, how cool is that? And I'm told some of these kids, some of these city kids come to this camp and they're seeing stars for the first time. I can't imagine living in Michigan and never seeing stars. I'm not saying that the people at MUCC are telling me a story. I'm just saying I can't imagine it. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I thank all of the companies and the people and the individuals who stepped up and stepped forward to make this event possible. Coming up here on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, after the break, Chris Kreiner talks about summertime coyote hunting and more, I suspect. Then Nick Buggia of the Michigan Wildlife Council with an update on their Here for Generations campaign. In our second hour, we're going to Lake Michigan to talk with Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters out of Manistee. I think Paul is actually going to be on the water as we are talking with him. Then Matt Smith Outdoor Realtor, talks about the process of finding recreational homes and recreational properties and how to pull the trigger, make that happen. Our Ask Avery segment was brought about by my buddy Craig Plowman. He says, hey, he says, I just heard about the tribes putting a bunch of walleye into the UP. Who oversees the tribal stocking programs? Couldn't that screw up the ecosystem if they just go arbitrarily planting fish? Well, Dave Caroffino of the DNR will talk about that. And in our third hour, it's the chairman of the boards, Bruce DeShano of Offshore Tackle, joins me to talk about his history in the fishing business, the company that he built from one downrigger release, and more. And then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. And I think he's got another sheephead recipe. Don't laugh. I've been told it's really good. Lots coming up this week. So glad you're with us right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK. That's 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Alpena on WZTK 105.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based, family-owned Killer Food Plots. Now, I realize we kind of maybe right in the lull of food plot planting season. We're kind of after the springtime season, and we're not quite into the fall food plot planting season. But it is time to get ready, right? You can take a look at the areas you want to work here coming up in a few weeks. Make sure you get your soil samples. Rich Krazan of Killer Food Plots talks about that. Soil samples, soil samples, soil samples. Go to the website, killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com to learn more about the different seeds that Killer Food Plots has, the different services, and just a wealth of information. There's a lot of different seed companies out there. Why not work with a Michigan-based family-owned company? killerfoodplots.com. Well, normally this time of year, most of us are thinking about fishing season. Now, people are starting to think towards the fall hunting season, right? But most of us are fishing right now. Chris Kreiner, though, says, you know what? I'm a hardcore outdoorsman, but right now I'm going to be involved in hunting, and it's coyote hunting. It's predator hunting. I want to bring him on the Outdoor Magazine show to talk about that and lots more, and he has graciously agreed to join us. Chris, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good, Mike. How about yourself?
I am doing great, but I am in a fishing mode right now, and looking at your online presence, looks to me like you're full-blown hunting.
It's about time, right? Since the NRC shut down our season for the last 3 months, we have been just chomping at the bit to get back after it. And that's opened up again on July 15th. So, yeah, this last week we jumped right in and have been doing pretty good.
What do you see out there after leaving those dogs alone for 3 months? Could you tell? Were they acting like they hadn't been hunted? Did you see more animals? What was out there?
I did feel like there was a sense of less pressure. We were able to take 4 coyotes this last week, and 3 of those coyotes were in the fields mousing before we didn't even have to turn on the collar. So, I mean, that also goes to show there's still plenty of coyotes out there, but they weren't aware of our presence as far as pulling into the drive, getting our equipment out of the truck. They didn't seem to care at all, and we were able to step into the field, give them a little lip squeak, and get them into range.
Why hunt coyotes in the summertime? I mean, I know the answer, but there are going to be people listening say, why is he out there doing this right now?
There's multiple reasons, and part of the reason why we were a little upset with the season being closed for 3 months is this is a prime part of the season where we got the fawns, we got turkey poults, we have the spring young that are very vulnerable right now. And so it's very important to keep these predators under control year round. There's multiple spots in the state where there's definitely no shortage of coyotes, and they're detrimental to the young population.
It was when the NRC made that decision on springtime coyote hunting, and more recently, their apparent lack of interest in the deer management initiative's suggestions that really have me thinking, man, it's time for some new commissioners.
Mike, I had a call this last week from the Michigan Trapping and Predator Calling Association regarding that, and how unfortunate it is that the typical sportsmen don't seem to have a voice, and we continually be ignored. And then just flat out pure science is saying these certain items would really help our deer population, our predator control population, and those continue to be ignored. So it is frustrating.
I was talking with Justin Tomei of MUCC last week, and I said, Justin, is it time to abolish the NRC and do something else? And he said, well, he doesn't think so, because the options are let the legislature do it. No. Let the electorate, the people do it. No. Let the department do it. Well, maybe. But he said if you get the wrong people in the department, then you're in trouble too. So I don't know. Maybe if the NRC is still a viable, valid entity, at least put some new blood in there.
I completely agree. The NRC was put in place for a purpose, and I don't feel they're fulfilling their purpose, but I don't feel they need to be abolished either. I think they do serve an important role in the state, but we definitely need some fresh blood. And unfortunately, it's not an elected position.
Yeah.
It is a position appointed by the governor, and it makes it difficult to get the right people in there.
Yeah, yeah.
And that goes on to the point that everybody has a difference of opinion on how things should be done or how things should be run. We all have our own, experiences in the outdoors in the state of Michigan, and so it's hard to ignore what individuals bring to the table.
I know I hate to harp on this lately. It just has me very frustrated. I look at what's going on around there, and in the state, and I think, boy, we need, more than ever right now, we need advocates in Lansing, and I don't feel like we have it. So that's what's making me so frustrated.
Absolutely. Completely agree with that.
So, all right, let's go back to the original topic today. Coyote hunting in the summertime. What's your rig? What's your setup? And is it different than in the fall or other times of year?
Typically, my rig stays the same. I run a couple different caliber choices. A lot of people harp on the 223, but I do love the 223. It's a cheap round, and it doesn't cause a lot of damage to the animal, and it puts them down quick. It's all about bullet selection, in my opinion. And so I run an AR-15 in a 223 and 6-ARC are the current rifles I'm using. 6-ARC is a new cartridge developed by Hornady a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. And then I also run a 243 and an AR-10 platform, and that does a great job as well. So lots of choices out there. Just got to keep that caliber selection with a bullet diameter of 0.269 inches or smaller in diameter.
Smaller than a 270.
Yes, sir.
Remind me, what is the stupid question? But what's the difference between an AR-10 and an AR-15?
So ultimately, the size of the cartridge is one way of looking at it. It's not necessarily considered a long action, but it is a larger cartridge that needs a little chamber pressures are a little bit different. So there's others that'll be able to explain that in a more technological term than I can, but that's basically my understanding. An AR-15 is going to generally be considerably lighter. An AR-10 is going to be a little bit heavier, unless you spend the big dollars for a carbon fiber barrel and aluminum There's a bunch of different factors.
Could you go out there with your bolt action or a semi-auto and hunt?
Absolutely, yeah. I choose AR platforms just for convenience, but I also do have a couple other rigs, which is a bolt action 22-250 and a bolt action 6.5 Creedmoor. Both of them are very capable of taking out coyotes.
So you're all in on this, Chris. I remember talking to you in the past about being a hardcore deer hunter. Well, you've kind of switched your focus, haven't you?
Considerably, yeah. I still love getting out during deer season and spending some time in the tree stand, but nothing quite gets me going as much. I'll say it's comparable to a 3.5-year-old whitetail, or better. And I get to experience that on a weekly basis with coyotes. Granted, I do have some cold spells, but yes, coyotes are so much fun to chase all year round. Well, not year round.
Not year round anymore.
So it's disheartening, but I do love chasing them, and it's a great time. It's almost like waterfowl. A lot of guys like waterfowl hunting because they get to spend time in the fields with their buddies. They can chat. They can have a good time. Whereas whitetail hunting, as a general rule, is a solo sport, right? So this is very involved with friends and family to be out in the field.
You compared it to a 3.5-year-old buck. I want to see if I can figure that out, because like a 3.5-year-old buck here in Michigan, you're going to see those rarely, but you out there coyote hunting, you're seeing them often. So what's the comparison there?
Often. Well, it's the way that they come into the call. When you get a hard charging coyote and he's just, or even another coyote that's not hard charging, but he's super upset, he will vocalize that discomfort with you being in his field, or I should say a competitor being in his field taking his food. He will do loud yips and barks right at you, trying to challenge you and scare you off. It's just something about that vocalization that just is really exciting.
See, that part I understand, and that's to me like turkey hunting, when you can interact with the critter and try to encourage them to come in. Yeah, that is fascinating. Now I get what you're saying. Absolutely.
That's the most comparable thing to it. I can say coyote hunting similar to turkey hunting. You try to get a vocal response out of the coyotes, and you try to call them into your lap, and the same with a turkey. You get a vocal response from a turkey, and you try to move into a position and call them into your lap. So it's exciting.
So are you using decoys this time of year, or no?
If I was day hunting, I would use a lot of decoys as far as a motion decoy on the collar. When I'm hunting at night, I do not use decoys. Those tend to get stolen by owls. We call in a lot of owls, and when they swoop in at your collar and they don't see that there's some motion there, they don't pursue the collar. But if they saw motion, they'll reach right down, grab the decoy, and take off with it. So yeah, and at night they don't serve as big of a purpose as they do during the day.
Do the coyotes? I know they never let their guard down, but are they less wary after dark?
Well, I wouldn't say they're necessarily less wary. They are more comfortable after dark. That is their primary. They do most of their hunting in the cover of darkness. And what that allows you as the hunter to do is move into a field. You don't have to tuck yourself into cover either. And you can call those coyotes out into the open, and they feel comfortable at being out in the open. It's a little more difficult on a full moon night because the coyotes typically tend to stay into the cover. Even with the full moon, it's still dark, but the full moon creates enough light that they make them uncomfortable. Man. So when it's dark out, they come right out.
There was a beautiful orange full moon the other night, and I thought, I'm not a coyote hunter, but if I was out there tonight, it would have been a gorgeous night to be out there. And a gorgeous night for some pictures, Chris.
It was, actually we had a little bit too much cloud cover here because I was hoping to get some, just as the moon is rising over the horizon and get some of those red moon photos. Hang
tight, Chris. I want to follow up on that. I shouldn't have even introduced that topic because I knew you were going to go. Chris Kreiner, his website is Kreiner Media. Kreiner's Kreiner, ckreinermedia.com. We'll talk more about that after the break with Chris Kreiner right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM and north of the bridge in Escanaba on WCHT 600 AM 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Matt Smith, Outdoors Realtor. Matt, a longtime friend of mine. He's an expert at finding recreational properties and vacation homes, and he can help your family turn a dream into a reality. Learn more online at Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're looking for a new home as your primary residence, Matt can help you out there as well. That's Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. And coincidentally, Matt will be joining us in the second hour of this week's show to talk more about that. But right now, we're talking with Chris Kreiner of C. Kreiner Media, ckreinermedia.com. Chris, the reason I brought up that big full moon the other night and what a beautiful night it was is I've seen your photos, your pictures from after dark in the nighttime, and few people, in fact, I don't know anybody who can capture an image in the dark like you can. They're stunning. How do you do that?
Thank you, Mike. It was a learning process over the years in gathering information on understanding how a camera works and the inner workings of a camera, and it really just started making things pop once you could figure that out. And there's a handful of guys throughout the country that can do it and do it well, and I'm honored to be a part of that group.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of them out there. When I see your pictures right away, I go, oh, that's one from Chris, because they're just there's something about that black background and the way you light them and the way you pose the hunters and the animals that shows respect. And there's a lot of photos out there of dead critters these days don't show respect for the game.
That and that is part of the reason why we ran into the issues we did with the NRC this year, was because some of those photos of the disrespect to the animals came to light. And what I try to teach people online and through my photo taking experiences is there is a way to do it without showing all the blood and being graphic in respecting the animal, regardless if it's a predator or a varmint such as a coyote, woodchucks, deer, your well-respected deer and elk. There's ways of taking photos to keep them clean and super respectful, and nobody can complain about that.
A lot of people in this state just absolutely hate coyotes. They hate them. They want them all dead. Kill them all, like they say for wolves, too. I mean, you're a hardcore coyote hunter. What's your relationship with that animal? What are your thoughts on that predator?
Obviously, I don't want to kill them all. I want to. It is a great time in the fields, such as deer. With any sport we pursue, we want that animal to always be there for us to be able to pursue. And I have such a love and a passion for coyote hunting that the last thing I want to do is see them wiped off the face of the earth. They are a very interesting animal that I respect greatly, and I have a lot of fun chasing them and understanding their behaviors. And so I think there's a respect thing there. I definitely don't want to kill them all.
You hunt coyotes at a very high level. How would somebody get started? What are the basics?
The basics is don't give up. Coyotes, you have to be where the coyotes are in order to be successful. Just because you got one on a scouting camera an hour ago doesn't mean it's going to be there when you get there. They move a lot. They sometimes have their core areas, which is you try to find those core areas, and you can stick with those and be successful on a regular basis. But you have to be where the coyotes are. And simply sticking with a rabbit distress on medium volume somewhere in that ballpark, if you just stuck with that and kept trying and trying, you're going to call one in. It's just a matter of time.
You say you have to be where they are. I feel like they're everywhere now. I mean, every field, woodlot, suburb, city, it's got coyotes.
That is true. They are pretty much in darn near every square mile of the state. You definitely have those nights though when they're traveling. We've had dry spells. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say I didn't have 10, 12, 15 stand dry spell. And by stand is, go out in the field, spend 20 minutes, and then move out and go to the next spot. We've had plenty of those. I mean, we don't call them in on every stand. And it wouldn't be hunting if you called them in on every stand. And you might lose the enjoyment of the chase.
You're a patient man, Chris.
Hey, we all have our things that we love, and part of that is being patient and making what we love happen.
It's interesting. Every good coyote hunter I talk to says the same thing about that, though. Don't give up. Be patient. Be persistent. You're not going to take one every time out. You might not even take one for several days in a row, but just stay at it, right? And that's how we get better. Just stay at it.
Absolutely. You learn more about the animal the more you try.
Chris, I appreciate your work. I respect your work. I would send people to your website, ckreinermedia.com, ckreinermedia.com, and I appreciate everything you've done to promote coyote hunting in this state by putting it in a positive light. So I appreciate your time on the show.
Thank you, Mike.
Chris Kreiner of C. Kreiner Media, the website ckreinermedia.com, ckreinermedia.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll wrap up this opening hour of the show with another guy for whom I have much respect. His name is Nick Buggia. He's the chairman of the Michigan Wildlife Council. Their Here for Generations campaign is doing so much to educate the non-hunting and angling public about what we do and how we are the ultimate conservationists. So Nick Buggia coming up after the break. Then in our second hour, Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters, Matt Smith of Matt Smith Outdoors, and Dave Caroffino of the Michigan DNR coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra, 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Sioux on WKNW, 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing headquarters. They have a wonderful campground, a great boat launch, ship store, full marine shop. What more can you ask? In fact, this weekend, Linwood Beach Marina is the site of the third annual Angler Quest Owners Tournament, so we appreciate that very much. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Go out of the channel, head straight east, go till you start marking fish and start fishing. That's as easy as it gets, linwoodbeachmarina.com. I was telling you earlier in the show that my guest at the end of this hour is Nick Buggia of the Michigan Wildlife Council. He is the chairman of that group, a group that I've worked with for many years now and have much support, much respect for, and I support heartily, because I think they're doing a wonderful job of educating the non-hunting and angling public about what it is that we do. Nick, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure. So what's going on in your world, buddy?
Yeah, well, the governor declared July to be Wildlife Conservation Month, and that's something we've done for the last few years just to kind of help the general public recognize all the efforts that hunters and anglers do when they buy their hunting and fishing license. That money goes to support wildlife conservation, both a game and non-game species. We recently got back some of our survey data from last year, which was, some exciting news. So Michigan's always had strong support of hunting and fishing. About 75% of Michigan residents support, either strongly or moderately support hunting and fishing. About 83% strongly approve of fishing. But kind of what we saw, and it's a little bit in the weeds, but we did see a small uptick in those that strongly approve of hunting and fishing. And when you look across the nation and you see support in general for hunting and fishing dropping, to see a small uptick here in Michigan of folks that strongly approve of hunting and fishing was kind of an exciting direction for us.
So I'm going to give you guys some of the credit for that. Do you accept that? Do you feel like it's your campaign that is moving the needle, as you guys like to say?
So we do. I mean, there's always a variety of factors, and it is a group effort. I'm not going to say it's all us, but we do. We are very specific in who we target. We think that we're doing a good job at that, and what we do take credit for is when we send out messages, from year to year, we switch it up a little bit, and so. Say the message is, hunting is a management tool. Well, what we can see is some years or say before we go into market with that message, it's lower. After we go into market with the message, more people recognize that hunting is a management tool. And so, I'd like to think that, yes, we do have a part to play in that and that we're spending, hunters and anglers money wisely and effectively.
And I've noticed this last year in particular, your message has gotten a little more direct, more specific, more positive towards hunting and angling.
Yeah, and so that's going to continue on this year. You're going to see more images of hunters and anglers. You're going to see maybe more firearms or bows, tools that we use and in our pursuits that maybe you haven't seen before. And we're also going to be targeting hunters and anglers specifically a little bit more and trying to kind of, educate them, make sure they know where their licensed dollars go, but also, kind of say, hey, we're having success with this messaging. Here's the messaging that we're using. Come kind of join us and help push this messaging out further to your friends and family that maybe don't hunt and fish.
I like that, Nick. I like that a lot. It's surprising the number of hunters and anglers who don't realize the impact that we have on conservation. So if we can make them aware of that and encourage them to share that with our people too, in addition to the rest of the state, the non-hunters and anglers, I think it's a win-win. I think you guys are doing a great job, Nick. Good job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Nick, I will talk to you again soon, whether you're wearing the Michigan Wildlife Council hat or one of your many other hats that you wear, and we'll look forward to that conversation.
Sounds good.
Nick Buggia of the Michigan Wildlife Council. The website is here for mioutdoors.org, here for mioutdoors.org, and the campaign is here for generations. That's something I talk about all the time here on the show. This history and tradition of the outdoors in our great state of Michigan, and for many of us personally in our families. So to hear here for generations, that's an honorable goal, and I think the Michigan Wildlife Council is doing a great job of promoting that. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, we're going to head to Lake Michigan, talk to Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters, then Matt Smith talking about buying recreational properties, and we'll wrap up the hour with this week's Ask Avery question and Dave Caroffino of the Michigan DNR, coming up in Hour 2 of Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Yes, indeed. This is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And I do think the best way to listen to this show, if you can, is on your local radio station. If your local station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in God forbid, some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, I do a podcast version of the show as well. Now, the podcast is the exact same content. It is the exact same audio. I just make it available somewhere other than on your local radio station. Those outlets include my website, which is MikeAveryOutdoors.com, my Facebook page, all of the different podcast outlets. Wherever you listen to your podcasts, you can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show, including YouTube. I put it on YouTube as well. Now, I do like podcasting, though, and each month I produce podcasts for some of my advertising partners, including Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, and Primal Outdoors. So I would encourage you to keep an ear out for those as well. So, in my personal life, my family history here, when it got to be August, and August is just around the corner, when it got to be August, we would spend a good solid week fishing salmon on Lake Michigan. Early on, it was out of Muskegon, Ludington, Frankfort, but Manistee, mostly Manistee. And I fell in love with those fish, those big hard-fighting fish. The first salmon I ever caught, and I have pictures of it, was in 1968, out of Manistee, fishing with a tri-hull ski boat on braided line, trolling a flatfish. Now, I didn't do it. I got to be honest with you. I was sitting in the boat with a life jacket on, and they handed me the rod. And I kind of got, no pun intended, hooked on those fish. Now, I haven't fished salmon in several years. It used to be something that I did with my dad, and once he's gone, it's like really kind of not the same. I think he'd be mad. I think he is mad because he thinks I should be over there. But I've been blessed to fish with some of the best, in my opinion, charter captains on the Great Lakes, and right near the top of that list is Paul Schlafley, Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters out of Manistee. Paul has been out there since he was a kid, and he's not a kid anymore, and he's got a lot of experience, and I appreciate the time that I get to spend with him, and I think today he's even cutting into his time on the water. Paul Schlafley, welcome back to the show. Are you on the water today, buddy?
No, I'm not. I was supposed to be, and we got a cold front coming in today, Mike, and I had some kids, and we ended up not bowing out on it. So
Okay.
This whole day kind of looks bad, really. It got a small craft advisories, and so it's kind of one of them deals. We got these north winds coming in, and it's just bad for us here. Manistee north is not good for us.
Paul, who makes that call when it's an iffy day, whether to go out? Do you leave that to your clients, or do you have the? I know you have the ultimate authority, but how's it all work?
It depends on my crew. I mean, sometimes I get guys that are really, they can handle rough water, and they don't have a problem with it. But you do get some folks that go out in 5-6 footers. It's not, it could be a bad experience, and a lot of times I just end up bowing out. It depends on my crew. And I get some guys that are pretty, can handle the weather, and we'll do it. I probably could have did it today. I mean, a couple guys did go, but when I get kids and a family like that, it makes it tough. I don't want them to have a bad experience either.
No. You want everybody to be comfortable and have fun, and I don't care how big the boat is. I don't care how good the captain is. When you get waves like that, it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yep, exactly. You get 4 to 6 foot waves, and it can be a bad experience. I used to get seasick, so I know what it's all about. It took me years to get over seasickness, but I fought it. It was one of them things. So I feel for people because I know how they feel, because there's nothing worse than seasickness. Man, it's terrible. Terrible.
How I've never heard of anybody who was able to beat that and get through it. How do you do that, Paul? What did you do?
I fought it. I never took medication. I just, in my mind, I thought, well, my body will get used to it. It eventually did, but it probably was my mid-20s before I got over it. I couldn't go in the cabin if it was real rough when I was young. And it just, I'd run charters, and I couldn't even go. I didn't want to go in that cabin, and I didn't even have a mate back then. But I'd have to go in there, but I'd make it quick, But yeah, I fought it. So a lot of people take Dramamine, and Dramamine works. Dramamine, to me, though, it really works. They should take it the night before, not just take it that morning. Get it in their system, and then for the people I know that has worked well, they take it the night before, and then take it in the morning when they get up. So it seems to work pretty good that way. Some people use the patches. Patches work good. Had a lot of folks have good luck with that. And sometimes it doesn't. Though some people can't. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Just that equilibrium messes you up. It's part of the game.
How long will this cold front, this north wind, how long will that mess you up out there, the fishing out there?
Oh, we've been fighting this for the last month with these fronts coming in. It's been messing our fishing up. We've had some really good fishing, setting up really good. Get this cold front, and I'm afraid tomorrow we might be good in the morning, and then till we get some south winds coming in, which we do got coming, thank God. It's gonna set up our fishing, but these north winds definitely mess our fishing up here in Manistee. It does not help us.
How does the wind direction affect you? I understand if you get a big blow, so it makes it too rough, but the direction of the wind, how does that help or hurt you?
For us, north wind, it brings our thermocline up, so the water gets cold. Well, the fish can go anywhere, so they're scattered. So they could be up in 20 foot of water or out in 500. They scatter, so you don't have that concentration. So it makes it tough. I mean, it could be up in skinny water or out in deep water, and so you don't have that. When we get that thermocline down 80, 100 foot, it concentrates on fishing, man. Then we got good fishing, and then they're easier to catch too when they're down deeper. When they're up higher, they're harder to catch because they're spooky, and you just got to deal with spooky fish then. So it just makes it tougher fishing. You still catch fish, but it's just not the big numbers we get when it's set up right. But yeah, I mean, it's one of them things you just got to deal with. It seems like the last 3-4 years we've been having to fight this every year, these north winds. But we got a bunch of south wind coming, so I'm thinking our fishing's going to get on fire here. Pretty good here coming up.
You mentioned a phrase that I love. I use it all the time, skinny water. Now, to me, being Saginaw Bay walleye angler, I got an idea in my head of what skinny water is. What is skinny water to Paul Schlafley on Lake Michigan?
Skinny water for me, it varies. I mean, to me, 50 foot, 20 foot. I mean, it's not up on our shelf. It's up inside the water.
Yeah.
It could be our pier heads. It could make our pier heads real good fishing. And fish, you get a big north blow for a couple of days, our pier heads can get on fire. Fish come in, and the sad part is a lot of them will go up the river. And they're shoot right up. But we are pushing August, so there's fish definitely going to be coming in. The river guys get happy when we get all these north winds. They love it because them fish go up the river, and there's fish in the river already. So fish are kind of all over the place right now.
You mentioned 500 feet of water. How far do you have to run, Paul Schlafley, out of Manistee to get 500 feet? And then once you get out there, how do you fish 500 feet of water?
500 for us, probably 8-10 miles. And fishing it, generally, we're fishing a thermocline out there. Generally, like get a north blow, the thermocline out there is deeper. So it's hard to say, but normally we're fishing anywhere from 50 down to 120 foot. We're not fishing deep. Sometimes we'll fish deep, but generally when we're fishing down deep, it's like 200-300 foot of water. Fishing on the bottom, fishing down deep, that can get real good too because them fish are down on the bottom out there. But usually at 500 foot, we're fishing in that upper 100 foot generally. But we haven't been out there the last couple of years too much. But.
Well, for one thing, you don't want to burn that kind of gas to get out there if you don't have to, right?
Exactly. And there's some years it does get really good out there. I mean, it can get on fire, but it seems like the last couple of years for us here hasn't been that great. This year I haven't heard anybody really go out there and have a banner day this year. I don't know why, but it's weird how the water changes from year to year. It's different. It's all the way the water temps and winds blow and whatnot. But it can get good. In the middle of August, I've seen it get really good out there. You usually catch a mixed bag of everything out there. There's coho, steelhead, kings, and whatnot. But right now, this year, we've been fishing all at 180 to 300 foot of water for the most part. Most of my fishing has been like that 100 to 200 foot, kind of in and out. Just, every trip's kind of different. But tomorrow I'm thinking I'll be fishing in shallow. That's plan. I already canceled my afternoon trip because we got small craft advisors.
Mm.
And tomorrow I'm thinking I'm going to fish in 80 to 100, or 50. I'll kind of, it depends where that thermal's at.
Sure.
Check it in the morning.
Hang tight, Paul. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. We're talking to Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters, the website riversidecharters.com, riversidecharters.com. If you're looking for a guy to fish with out of Manistee, he would be an excellent choice. Now, whether you can find time on his schedule, an open slot, now that might be a little harder because Paul's been out there a long time. He's very well known and very well respected. We'll take a break more with Paul Schlafley here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Houghton Lake on the Twister, 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC, 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the company that brings you this sound right here. That's, what sound, I don't even have to tell you anymore, do I? I reached into my pocket, I pulled out my Rapid River knife, and I locked it back. And that's the sound that it makes. I love these Rapid River knives. I think a knife is one of the most valuable tools that somebody who loves the outdoors can have. Rapid River makes the best knives I have ever owned. They are handmade by craftsmen in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. I would encourage you to stop by their showroom on US 2, just east of Rapid River, and check it out. While you're there, use the promo code Avery10 and get 10% off your Rapid River knife. If you can't make it up to the showroom, go to the website rapidriverknifeworks.us. That's a brand new website, rapidriverknifeworks.us. And you can use the promo code Avery10 there as well to get 10% off. They're works of art. They're designed to be used. They're guaranteed for life. You're going to pass it down to the next generation. There's not a better gift out there, or a better gift for yourself out there as well. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us. While you are online, I would encourage you to check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Then jump over to RiversideCharters.com. RiversideCharters.com, the website of Riverside Charters, the man behind Riverside Charters, the face of Riverside Charters, the man himself, Captain Paul Schlafley. Paul, do you even have any openings coming up for the heart of the salmon fishing season?
Not really. I'm pretty booked. So I might have 2 afternoons, and she's kind of holding them in case I get some blow days to move people around. And other than that, it's pretty slim for me.
Well,
he can call and I can refer people. There's a number, there's quite a few charter boats here.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's month of August is always crazy here. July, we're pushing August now, so. But yeah, it's when I'm dealing with me, you got to book a year in advance.
Well, and you've been doing it so long, everybody knows you, and a lot of your clients are actually repeats, aren't they?
Yeah, oh yeah, probably 90% of them this time of year are. They're fishing, past or whatnot. But yeah, it's it's a good thing. I'm doing it a long time, but it's get tired.
Oh.
I got another guy that works with me, so sometimes I will not be on a boat, so people need to know that. But I got a guy that's really good. He's from over by you, and he fishes with me every day, so he knows the program. And I tell people, for the most part, I try to let them know I'm not going to be there. But running doubles, I'm pushing 60 now. It's getting old, but we do get blow days like today, so it gives you a little bit of a break. Basically, I got to do maintenance and whatnot.
Well, I don't know how you guys do it because honestly, I just fished 3 days in a row, and I'm tired. So you guys do it every day, and then you're running doubles. I honestly, I don't know how you do it day after day, week after week.
It's a grind. You just get in a rhythm, and it's a grind. It's tough. People think it's easy going fishing every day, but it isn't. Because you got to fight the weather or deal with people.
Yeah.
So you got to deal with certain things, but it's challenging sometimes for sure. But for the most part, it's fun, a lot of fun.
But
don't regret doing it.
No, I was going to say it's all though, right? This is what you've done since you were a kid.
Yep, pretty much. I just got a lot. I mean, I did outside end jobs, but my main business was always fishing, so it's been a good life. I'm blessed to grow up right here in Manistee. Manistee's a great town, great people around here, everybody's friendly, and we got big fish here. Catch a lot of big fish.
You do indeed. Hey, I want to go back to this thermocline. When you get a good thermocline that sets up, how do you fish that? Do you fish above it? Do you fish in it, or what?
Usually a lot of times you'll catch them right in that warm water above it too. So this time of year you catch fish. I usually will fish above it, in it, and below it. I mean, but usually try to be in the zone of it for the most part, but I will fish above it too a lot. The fish will be up in that warm water feeding on alewife, and a lot of alewife will be up above them generally. But it just depends. Every day's different. You just got to move your stuff around to whatever works for you, just keep changing stuff and changing my depths and whatnot. So you find what rig or what lead core or whatnot works for you. But, it's just one of them things. You got to keep changing until you find what works.
Are you seeing the thermocline? Do you see it on your sonar unit, or do you have a temperature probe drop down there to find it?
Both. Generally the probe's the best way to keep on it, because it moves around. A lot of times it changes as you're moving to different locations because it's up and down sometimes. So the probe is definitely the best way to keep in the thermocline for sure. And so you'll get pockets of warm water and whatnot and cold water, and sometimes them fish will be in certain areas you'll find a pocket of cold water, and that's where you'll get them. So a probe is definitely a big tool for fishing.
So are they following different water temps because that's where they're comfortable, or that's where the food is?
Probably both would be my guess. I don't know. I'm trying to guess these salmons, every day, sometimes they're in that cold water and other times you can't catch a fish in it. So they're not very predictable fish that I find. They're tough. Sometimes they're right down in that cold water. Sometimes they're up in that warm water. Just like I said, you got to just fish until find what works for you on that day.
That is so interesting for me to hear a guy like you who's been doing this forever to say that there are some days you go out there and maybe shake your head, scratch your head a little bit. I'm encouraged, actually, from my perspective, to hear you say that.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. I mean, sometimes they're in that cold water, man, and it's there'll be a pocket of cold water at Point Sabo, and they're there, and then there's other times you can't catch a fish in it. It's really, a lot of times they're right on the edge of it, where the cold to the warm meet, and that's a lot of times the place to be. It's basically a temperature break, and that's when sometimes you get on that, you can really get them. And a lot of times you'll see that line, and if we get a big blow like we got going on now, tomorrow morning will probably be, if you can find that spot, it could be game on, really good. That's what I'm planning on tomorrow anyways.
So when you go out there tomorrow, what does your spread look like? How many riggers? How many divers? How many lead core? I mean, what's it look like these days?
For me tomorrow, I'm going to probably run a big spread of boards up higher, because our thermal's going to be up. So I'll probably run a lot of 5-color leads, 7s, 8s. I'm thinking the thermocline's going to be 30 foot, so I'm going to have everything up high, riggers up high, divers up high, probably a lot of boards, and a lot of plugs. Getting them big kings now. We're getting some big kings. In Ludington, Mike on hiatus caught a 34-pounder in a tournament. What a day to catch that. So, I mean, it's some big there's a lot of 24 to 26-pound kings right now being caught. So every trip I'm getting them that size.
Really?
Yeah, there's some nice, they're really healthy looking fish right now. And they tear you up.
Well,
break some gear. You better run if you're running plugs, you better put heavier line in. You can't run a light line. You're going to be breaking stuff off.
What pound test you talking, Paul?
I run 30. If I'm running plugs, I'm running 30. Spoons, I'll downsize it a little, but if I'm plug fishing, I'm running heavier stuff because you'll break them off.
Why? Why are the plugs harder on the line than the spoons are?
Because you got a lot of times. Some guys will put one treble on there to keep that, but when you get double trebles, them troubles get wrapped around the line. I think the treble hooks cut the line.
Ah, okay.
But a lot of guys will go to single hooks, but I do like the double treble because your hookups are good generally. You don't lose a lot of fish, so you're kind of torn to go to a single hook or a double. I like the good hookups, because sometimes you lose a lot of fish, And so I kind of keep the double trebles for that reason. But.
Do you just get days where the fish aren't hooking up? Is it that some days they're real aggressive, they'll bite the heck out of it, they got both hooks in their mouth, and some days they're just nipping at it? I mean, is that am I overthinking or oversimplifying this maybe?
Yeah, there's definitely days like that. They're not eating it, they're just swiping at it. And a lot of times it's a speed thing too. Your speed, might be going too slow or too fast, and they're not grabbing it right, But there is definitely days they start getting pickier, I'm thinking tomorrow morning they're going to bite good, because usually they bite good right after a blow. That morning.
What speed do you like? Your go-to speed that you start out in the morning, Paul?
Starting out, I'll kind of throw a little slower, not real fast, probably 2.2, and then I'll bump it up as it gets lighter out, 2.6, sometimes 3, but just whatever I can up and down until I find what speed they want. Every day's kind of different. Currents, the currents are different every day, and directions are different. You can be going one way, going 3 mile an hour because the currents, you're going with the current, and then you go the other way and you're going 2 mile an hour because you're going into the current. So, the current dictates what your speeds are. And down, a lot of times that's where the probe's effective because you can see your speed.
That's what I was going to ask you. How in the world do you know what the current is 50 feet, 100 feet below you?
Yeah, I mean, that probe is definitely key, component in this fishery for sure. I mean, there's not very few boats that don't have them, so the charter guys, anyways.
Yeah. So how long, Paul, will you be out in the big lake, and when will you make your jump back up in the river this fall?
I generally will start switching in the river about middle of September because the salmon runs pretty in full swing in the river, so I kind of switch into that, and I fish about 2-3 weeks for salmon in the river, and then switch to steelhead when the steelhead starts showing up. I'll fish the steelhead all the way through the winter. In the winter time, this last winter was really good. We had no winter, so it was pretty good fishing all winter.
Is it a nice change of pace for you after being out there in the big lake for a couple of months to get back up in the river?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. It's nice to have that change. You don't have to fight rough water. You're always fighting rough water in the big lake. It seems like for weather or something. But I mean, you fight weather too in the river, but different.
Yeah, but you're not. But it's not. You're not physically bouncing back and forth and up and down. And I think it's probably a little easier on your body to be in the river than it is on a bumpy day in the big lake.
For sure.
Especially at your age, Paul, as you say.
Yeah, I mean, I can feel my knees. I mean, I had an old charter captain, Chip Klein, said, your knees are going to, he's done now, but he retired from, but yeah, your knees get messed up from fishing every day.
Paul, I got to let you go. Always a pleasure. Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters, riversidecharters.com, riversidecharters.com. He is the man. We'll take a break. When we come back, Matt Smith, Smitty, talking about buying recreational properties, vacation homes, whatever. Well, he's got the goods on that. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us Port Huron, WPHM, 1380 AM. And let's go north of the bridge. Let's go to Marquette. Let's go to WDMJ, 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why buy a bunch of different sets of hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set and snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern? It's a genius idea, and it literally takes no more than a minute to swap them out. Go to the website versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. You'll see what I mean. If you need big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, VersaSkins can help you out. If you are a saddle hunter, VersaSkins makes jackets specifically for saddle hunters too. Check them out online at versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. While you're online, especially if you're looking for vacation home, recreational property, or even your primary residence, look for Matt Smith Outdoors. He is on Facebook and Instagram as Matt Smith Outdoors. He's a friend of mine. He's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk about this process of finding recreational properties, hunting land, you name it. Smitty's got it dialed in. Matt, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm great, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. In fact, as we are talking with you today, you're out looking at a piece of property, right?
I am, Mike. That's absolutely correct.
What is involved in that process, Matt?
Well, Mike, a big question that people ask a lot is, what is an acre of land selling for? And it's a really wide open question that I think takes some time to look at individual pieces of property and understand whether it's got timber on it, is it open ground, is it tillable farmland, is it wet ground, is it high and dry? So those are all of the factors that I'm looking at every time I look at a piece of land and try to determine what that value is.
Matt, I think what you're doing is very interesting because you and I have talked about this before, and I feel like you are in the business of making families' dreams come true. And by that, I mean cottages, hunting properties, a place up north. But I think sometimes people are our own worst enemy. If we're waiting for the perfect storm, or if we're waiting for everything in our life to be perfect to make this happen, we're never going to make it happen.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Mike. And, there's an old saying in real estate, buy early and hold. Because if you're waiting for interest rates to come down, or you're waiting for the market to dip or something like that, you're waiting for something that you don't know is ever going to happen, and you're losing that valuable time that you could be spending with your family.
Yeah, exactly. So what's your advice, Matt, for people who are looking out there, they're thinking about it? Where do we start?
Well, we start with a phone call and the conversation with myself and just helping me understand what your vision is, and then allowing me to help you take maybe what your budget is and what your wants and needs are, and then craft that into what the ideal property is so that we can start looking at what's out there and start talking about potential financing, or are we going to make a cash offer? Are we going to move money from investments, and does it make sense to do that? There's a lot of factors that go into that, and I'm happy to help with all of those questions. What's
your range? Mid-Michigan only, or you're going statewide?
Statewide.
That's a big job, Matt.
Yes, but when it comes to land, it's definitely worth it, and I think you've seen some of the things I've listed up in northern Michigan, anywhere from 10 to 20 acres up to as much as 600, 700 acre parcels.
Well, the thing about getting this place up north, or this family vacation home or hunting property, I mean, this is a real investment. This isn't something that's going to, you buy now and it's going to be worthless. This is something that's going to grow in value.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike. And I have the conversation with people a lot of times that if they take money and they put it into the market in an IRA or some other type of investment, you don't really get to enjoy that investment. And land is the only thing that you can put money into in terms of a market commodity that you actually get to enjoy the use of as well. Now, don't take that to mean that I'm saying don't invest your money, but there's a really good argument for having some money in land, especially in the wake of crazy political climates and financial markets and things like that. Land is stable.
In general, Matt, here in Michigan, how are things? How are, very basic, low level, how are prices and how is availability?
Well, availability is tough, but I do see it getting a little bit better. You and I talked a couple of months ago, and there was like one property for sale in Gladwin County that was 40 acres or more. And there are more properties available now, but people would tend to still say that inventory is a little bit low. What that means is if you're looking to buy, you need to get in touch with somebody that's got eyes on it and can find those properties when they come on. if you're looking at a piece of property that your family's had and you're not doing anything with it, that means it's probably a good time to think about selling that property.
Matt, always great advice. I'll let you get back to work and check out this piece. I would encourage people to check you out online at Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we're going to wrap up this second hour of the show, as we almost always do, with the Ask Avery segment. This time, a question presented by a good friend of mine on who oversees the tribes stocking fish. And I'll tell you why this came up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee, WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. This week's question comes from Craig Plowman. And he's referencing the story about the Sault Ste. Marie tribes putting more than 1 million walleye and whitefish into northern Michigan waters. And Craig's question is, who oversees the tribal stocking program? And talking with him offline, it's like, well, you know, what if the tribes want to do something that doesn't jive with the DNR's stocking program? What if they want to put too many fish into a given area and overstress that resource? Dave Caroffino is a guy who deals with this issue and more. Often he's with the DNR, and he's been intimately involved in the consent decree negotiations and the tribes in general. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to answer this week's Ask Avery question. Hey, Dave, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing great, and I appreciate your time. So what is the answer to that, Dave? Who oversees the tribes stocking?
Well, the answer is co-management. So there is a section in the decree that talks about stocking and how the state and the tribes and the federal government work together to make sure that we stock the appropriate species at the appropriate levels in the appropriate places. So the Sioux tribe efforts, they've been stocking walleye for a long time. The whitefish stocking is a newer endeavor that they're pursuing to help recover whitefish populations. But we work together through a committee called the Technical Fisheries Committee. And that group discusses different options for stocking. And we all agreed on a stocking table that says what species can be stocked where, up to what number. And if someone wants to deviate from that stocking plan, from that stocking table, then we all have to reach agreement on how that is. So we all work together through a co-management fashion in order to make sure the lakes are stocked appropriately.
Gotcha. So it is there really is no oversight as much as there is cooperation.
Absolutely, yes. And we have all agreed to limit ourselves to not stock more fish than what is on that table. So, I mean, the oversight is we've all agreed to this, and so we're all going to follow what we've agreed to.
You were very much involved in the whole negotiation process. I got to believe you're glad that that's all behind you at this point. I mean, I know you continue to deal with it on a daily basis, but at least you're not in the trenches, or is that wrong?
That was a very challenging, I will say, decade of my life, because we started actually preparing for negotiations in 2014. So that all, of course, led to the implementation of the decree in 2023. While we are moving forward with implementing the new agreement, which is excellent, and things are going well there, we do still have an appeal outstanding, and so it's not necessarily over and done yet. So that we're still waiting to hear from the appeals court about the final fate of the decree. But yeah, it was certainly a challenging time, and it is nice to be able to move forward and really focus on the relationships that are necessary to implement the agreement in a successful way.
Well, a lot of anglers weren't happy with the outcome, but sometimes when you're dealing with an issue like this, I guess you're never going to make everybody happy. Were you happy? I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if you're happy or not. Do you think it was a good deal for the anglers of Michigan?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a great point. Some of the anglers weren't happy, and the state of Michigan wasn't happy, and the tribes weren't happy, and the federal government wasn't happy. You've got 7 different governments that all have a similar goal, but different approaches to achieve that goal. And so if you walk away from that and nobody is 100% satisfied, it's probably a pretty decent deal. There isn't a situation where anybody in the room can tell everybody else that this is how it's going to be. So it forces you to cooperate, and it forces everybody, the state, the tribes, the feds, to say yes to things that they don't want to say yes to in order to get to that end point, which is everybody has to live with an agreement where we can work together to cooperatively manage the resource. So all in all, is it a perfect deal? No. Is it better than what it could have been? Sure. And I think everybody on every side of that table would say the same thing.
Now, in theory, is this a 20-year deal?
This is a 24-year agreement. So it expires 24 years from the date it was signed. And it certainly could be amended as we go, but that's by consensus of the parties. So everybody has to agree that, something's different, something's changed, something isn't working out the way that we thought, and we need to make a modification. We did that in some cases during the last agreement that was in place from 2000 until this one took effect, but large-scale changes probably won't be seen on the landscape for 24 years.
Dave Caroffino, I appreciate you bringing me up to speed on that and jumping in and answering this week's Ask Avery question. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Yep, thank you. You too.
All right, Dave Caroffino of the Michigan DNR. He's a guy who was intimately involved in the consent decree negotiations, and he has answered this week's Ask Avery question. Thank you, Craig Plowman. The way to get those questions to me is to send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what question is on your mind, and we'll see if we can reach out and find the appropriate expert to get it answered. And, of course, thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in our third hour, it's the chairman of the boards, Bruce DeShano of Offshore Tackle.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. I can't believe that the last 2 hours have gone by so fast. It is a blessing to be able to, for me personally, to sit here at this microphone each week and to talk about the great outdoors, the history and tradition of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, and to be able to sit here for 3 hours every week and do this, and I've been doing it for years and years and years. I would like to be able to continue to do this for many more years. I mean, I have no plans to retire. People say, hey, you're no spring chicken anymore. When are you going to retire? I really don't know. I mean, listen, my plans are not God's plans, but I don't have any plans to retire soon at all because I absolutely love what I'm doing. I love to be able to talk about our outdoor passions, our outdoor history, our outdoor heritage. And one of the reasons I love this so much is here in our state, we have such an intimate relationship with the outdoors. We're surrounded by water. There's fields and woodlots all over the place. We have a lot of companies that focus and concentrate on these outdoor efforts. And I've had a chance to to work with many of them and get to know some of the key people, some of the key players in the outdoors. Now, here in Michigan, when you look at the world of fishing, there's maybe nobody more key than the chairman of the boards. His name is Bruce DeShano. He was given that title by Al Lindner of In Fisherman years ago. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Hey, Bruce, welcome back. How are you?
Great, Mike. Good to be back and good to enjoy this beautiful state we live in.
Oh, it is a wonderful state. And I was thinking, Bruce, you and I have talked recently on a couple of offshore tackle podcasts, and I thought, you know what, it'd be a good time to get you back on the radio show as well. I mean, you've been involved in fishing here in Michigan, I'm not going to say forever, but before rocks were formed.
yeah, that's for sure. There was still ice here when I was first here, I think.
How did it all start, Bruce?
Oh, it started by being a fisherman from my dad, and just wanting to do better, wanting to come up with something that made our life easier. When I did the salmon fishing. But my dad took me bluegill fishing, and then I went through the whole cycle of catching species and then catching numbers and catching size, and now I just enjoy going fishing, and I don't care if I put a lure on the line or not. So that started it. And then in the salmon era, we had different kinds of releases, and we weren't happy with them, and a couple guys come up with this alligator clip thing, and we took that and ran with it. Made it commercial, went from something you did on our lap, which is where Marilyn and I started building the first releases on a little particle boards and a hole punch and an alligator clip and hot glue, and they're where it's at right now with I don't even know how many different products we make. But quite a journey.
In some ways, Bruce, you have just described the American dream. A couple come up with an idea, they work hard, and they make it into a business. I mean, we can do that in this country.
Absolutely. We can now. I'm hoping we can in the future as well.
Yeah.
But yes, that's just exactly that. I look at it and I think, only in America could, a factory worker. I worked for Detroit Edison for 20 years, and I mean, end up doing what we're doing now with something I enjoy and I make a living at. And of course, Nick now runs a company, but I still stay pretty involved. He stays close in contact with me and everything.
Well, your son, Nick DeShano, is doing he's doing a wonderful job of running the company. And it's interesting, if you pick up the phone or Nick picks up the phone, I sometimes have to struggle to figure out which one of you it is because you guys sound exactly alike.
I wish I had my dad on the phone once in a while, too. So.
Same thing?
That can't happen anymore, unfortunately, but yes.
So, Bruce, what was it, at what point did you decide to pull the trigger and say, okay, I can make this a full-time deal, and jumped into it with both feet?
Well, I had a couple things going on. I had the marina in Harbor Beach. We were selling Cherokee boats. I had the little marina and tackle shop in Port Austin, and we were doing this. And I decided, I can't serve that many masters. So I left Edison, and right after I left Edison, the Cherokee boat plant, which was our primary source of big dollars, and we made some money on those, they burned down, so I lost all those boat sales. Larry Hartwick and I were together with that. And then we just struggled, and it was all good timing, which just about everything is proper timing. And the in-fishermen were starting their walleye world. The salmon were starting to fade out a little bit on Lake Huron with the loss of alewife. And I just hit the right people at the right time, and everything fell into place. So a year or two, one way or the other, probably would not have made it.
Was it walleye that put offshore out there for the masses, I'm going to say? Was it the walleye that did that?
it was the in fishermen that did that through the walleye game. We didn't have that kind of coverage in the Great Lakes with our, and the releases weren't that visible. We didn't have a planer board at that time. I was building the little mini release for other people's planer boards that they didn't want to use my release, so we built our own planer board. But it is walleye because of the notoriety that the walleye got at the time. In fishermen grabbed that, and they took it national. And I rode with the In Fisherman magazine and the Insider, and became friends with Al and Ron Lindner. And that's where we went. We rode that wave.
Where did this I'm calling it ubiquitous now, this yellow OR12 offshore tackle inline planer that I see everywhere, that I use all the time, where did that come from?
When we were building the little release, we had to have something to put it on, and we tested all the other boards, and there was a wooden board called the Rover board, and that board was the best of the bunch that were out there. The other plastic ones with rattles in it and aluminum brackets that failed, and so when I got rejected by the other planer board companies, decided to make our own. I got with Gary Parsons and Keith Cavallas and Mark Romanek, and we all worked on something that would be like the Rover board, but I had a friend that had injection molding work, and we went that way with it. We come up with, I have to run better than the Rover board or we're not going to build something, and we ended up with, it was going to be more expensive than anything that was out there. And I made the decision that I have to charge a little more, but we're going to give them the quality, and it's the best product on the market. So that's where we went, and we've never looked back. It's always been it's never been finished. And no matter what I do to it, people tell me you need to do this, or that way works better, or this way works better, which is something you can do with our board that you can't do with a lot of the other people's planer boards. They have a fixed one-hand release or a slip thing in the back, so we give you a lot of options, and I guarantee you it's not done yet. I don't know what's coming up next, but somebody will come up with some idea.
When I talk to people on the Offshore Tackle podcast, I always ask them, how do you run your boards? How do you set them up? And everybody tweaks them and runs them different, and I think that's part of the appeal. You can customize them.
Yes, they become personal.
Bruce, why is trolling such an effective way to catch fish?
Well, it's a family fishery technique. You don't have to stand in the front of the boat and stare at a piece of glass and try to get your whole family up there, where you can take the wife and she can read her book and you can holler, hey, you've got mail, which is one of the things with the tattle flags people have. And she can put her book down casually, walk back there. The fish is still on the line. Bring it in and have fun doing that. People talk about, I don't like to fight the board all the way in. We're catching walleye. Mike, we're fishing for walleye. If you want to fight, go salmon fishing.
Yeah.
I love walleye. I enjoy eating the heck out of them. But they're, and if you're jig fishing for them and stuff, you get a little more fight out of them. But when you're 50-50, you're 100 foot back behind the board, you bring the board in, the walleye is still there, and you're doing 2 miles an hour. But it's fun, and it's a family event, and you don't have to be totally concentrating on the rod tip and stuff, which, again, that's fun, too. I enjoy that little tick of a walleye, or the dropping the jig down and it doesn't go down where it's supposed to, so you quick set the hook and you got a fish. But you can't put your family in the front of your boat with this new fishing technique.
Gotcha. Hang tight, Bruce. Look, I hate to interrupt the chairman of the boards, but I got to take a break. We're talking with Bruce DeShano of Offshore Tackle, the website offshoretackle.com. That's offshoretackle.com. Check out the previous Offshore Tackle podcasts where I have in-depth conversations with Bruce DeShano of Offshore Tackle, offshoretackle.com. More coming up. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Muskegon on WKBZ, that's 1090 AM. You can hear us in the Thumb, Sandusky, WMIC 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Premier Maritime Training. If you've ever wanted to get your captain's license, I think this is your best bet. Captain John Littlefield taught my captain's class, and he can help you become a licensed charter captain as well. Check out the website, pmtcaptains.com, for more info. John has classes across the state, and I'm sure you can find one that fits your schedule. That's pmtcaptains.com. That's pmtcaptains.com. I am a licensed charter captain. I don't do paid charter trips. I got my license so I could do charity charters, and I've been on the water a lot this summer. And each trip out there, I was looking at the yellow offshore tackle OR12 planer boards with the orange tattle flag. That's my go-to presentation for Saginaw Bay walleye. And the man behind offshore tackle, his name is Bruce DeShano, and he's with me now on the Outdoor Magazine phone lines. Bruce, you started in salmon, you moved over to walleye, but then the company has, I'm going to say dabbled, but been quite successful in other fisheries as well.
Well, we spent a couple years chasing the stripers around in the National Striped Bass Association. That was fun. The biggest one of those was 36 pounds on planer boards. And then we chased a little crappie around. That was really fun. I mean, I got to spend some time with Tommy Scarless when he was here, and he won the Crappie Masters National Championship with that. And then we made the big board, the big SST board, and Nick got talking with some catfish guys, and we were really surprised at how many cat fishermen use planer boards. Now there's some locally produced boards down there that are out of Lexan and styrofoam and stuff, but it was quite surprising how many planer boards we've sold to the catfish group. So we've pretty well covered the gambit. Saltwater is not in our sight because of the speed that they troll at. They troll at 5 to 8 miles an hour, and when the fish hits, he hits at 30 and 40 and 50 miles an hour, and it's just not. At least we don't have a product now that fits in the saltwater world.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. Again, going back to doing your podcast, the Offshore Tackle Podcast, you can hear that at offshoretackle.com, offshoretackle.com. It opened my eyes to this world of catfishing. I had no idea it was such a big fishery, so popular, and the size of the fish. I get why they fish for these things. They're huge.
Oh, man, it takes a 70, 80-pound fish in their tournaments to be competitive. It's two fish over 34, 35 inches, and I think it's 3 under, and it takes 150 to 170 pounds to win a tournament. I mean, it's just awesome to watch a guy pick up a catfish and have this catfish swing around his tail, knock his hat off and his glasses, and the boats are specific. There's a couple brands of boats out there that are specific for the catfish, and it's hardcore, serious stuff.
Yeah, it is. Listen, I want to talk to you about your setup of boards, because this is a conversation I have with a lot of people. How far out do you run your boards away from the boat? Like Mr. AnglerQuest, Brad Dupuis, he puts them in a different time zone. They're in their own different zip code, but I know that you like to run them a little tighter. In fact, maybe even tighter than most people do. What's the thinking there, Bruce? What is the ideal, and this is a little inside baseball. This is pretty technical here, but what is the ideal length to put your boards out to the side?
Boy, that's a fun one. That goes right with each one of us are going to tell you something different.
Yeah,
Nick and I run them
but
different.
you're the man, though, Bruce. You are the man. I want to know what you do and why.
Well, I run mine fairly close, and I like to run them fairly close together as well, because walleye are school fish. So if you get into walleye, one of them hits a bait, I want another bait right there by it, so we can get that second, third, fourth fish. And nowadays they run 5 aside, so obviously you're going to have quite a ways out. But I probably run mine 20, 30, and 40 feet from the boat. And again, I can get it in quicker. The least amount of time I can have the fish on the line is the better chance I have of not losing that fish. If he's out there 150 feet and then 150 feet behind the board or 100 feet behind the board, I got a lot of cranking to do, and I got a lot of non-productive time. So in my tournament days, I wanted to get him in, measured, weighed, released, and back fishing again. But again, you get more tangles the farther out you get it. You let the boards go, the more tangles, because you'll lay the outside lines will lay in the water. When you make a turn, you'll run over the line. And there's a technique that we're going to try to do some video one day on how to correct it when you run over a board from the inside line. We've all done it. I still do it occasionally when I turn too sharp. But no, I'm just a close. I don't think that we really spook them as much from the boat as that the fish are more neutral. The ones you run right over top of, they're, maybe a little spooky because of the shadow or something. I don't know. You have to get with them scientific guys today to explain it. But
you talk.
I catch a lot of walleye.
Exactly. So that's why I'm going to listen to you. And you talked about your tournament days. I remember your tournament days on the national circuit. In fact, I followed you one year to Bismarck, North Dakota, to fish in a national championship.
Yes, I made that. That was quite an honor. I still got the jacket. I can't get in it anymore, but I still got the jacket. And I finished in the middle of the pack. They're about 17th, I think, out of 42 of the best. And the guys that did nothing but that and had nothing to do but fish, where most of my time at the tournament sites were promoting my product.
Sure.
But I enjoyed it. It was an honor to be able to fish at the level that those guys are with the level of anglers that they were, and to be part of that bunch.
And you talk about that bunch, and I mentioned this on the podcast again quite a bit about, I think if you are considered an offshore tackle pro staffer, you can consider yourself successful, because I feel like you guys are very picky. I feel like you have very strict guidelines for who you want to work with, and I consider them the best of the best. What is your advice for a young guy or gal getting into the world of fishing these days? What should they keep in mind? Can somebody still make a living on fishing these days, or do you need to have a real job and make the fishing your backup?
That's been discussed lately around the pool. I don't think you can really make a living anymore at it. The boats have gotten so expensive. I mean, you just look at the National Walleye Tour, NWT, 100 and some boats. There isn't a 4-year-old truck in there. There's probably not a 4-year-old boat in there. So you're looking at probably $150,000 to $250,000 in each angler's rig, and for what? Even if you win $100,000, that's a boat and cash. It's a hobby. It's a hobby that you can make a little money on, but it's nothing that, the sponsors aren't paying big money. I think if we went to all artificials only, it might be a little different, like bass fishermen. But it's just not the walleye circuit just doesn't carry the aura that the bass guys do. And therefore, they don't push product. They don't move product like the bass guys do. I mean, if you catch something on a blue whiz bang in the bass world, you can't find one in 5 states around that. But you do it out here, and the guys go, I can do that on worms. Okay, game over.
Yeah.
And the walleye angler doesn't get the respect. If they find you fishing on a spot, they see you fishing a spot, you go there the next morning, they'd been there for 2 hours before you got there. And that's happened to me several times right here on Saginaw Bay, where what are you doing here? Well, we saw you here yesterday, so we thought we'd get here early. And here I am,
Well, and knowing you, though, your philosophy was, well, it's a big bay. There are a lot of fish. I'll just go somewhere else and find them.
Oh, yeah. And
Right?
I didn't mind because they were all pulling planer boards. So
Yeah, exactly.
I won.
Yeah, for sure. Where do you see offshore going, Bruce? I mean, under Nick's direction, like I said, we both agree he's doing a wonderful job. Saltwater is pretty much off the table. Do you go into new markets or just continue to stay in the markets where you're at and come up with new products?
Yeah, I think we're going to probably stay here doing what we're doing and try to come up with some new products. And the problems we're running into now is everything has gotten so expensive. Material costs have gone through the roof. We've 2 or 3 price increases a year when we put out a price in March for the following year. And we're working our tail off to stay in America. That's the hardest part, I think. That's as our costs go up, we're just, and Nick and I both, I don't know if I couldn't keep the company in America, I don't know if I'd want to keep the company. I guess I'll put it that way.
I've heard you say that before. Absolutely, yeah. Well, and the fact that you keep them here means a lot to a lot of people. And, if you got to pay a few dollars more for it, well, at least you know where it was made, right?
Right. And it lasts 20 years.
Well, I got boards that are old. They last a long time, that's for sure.
I tell people, you might have lost the board, but that board's fishing tomorrow.
That's right. It's still out there fishing.
Somebody found it and they're fishing with it. So
absolutely.
I'm amazed at how many people get boards back. They put their name and number on the board, and the networking here, especially in Saginaw Bay area, of guys trying to get that board back to that person.
I know. Fishermen and hunters in general, I think, are good people. And, Bruce, you're one of the best. I always enjoy our conversations with you. I congratulate you on your years of success, and I will look forward to talking with you again soon.
Sounds great, Mike.
Bruce DeShano, chairman of the boards, Offshore Tackle, the website offshoretackle.com. That's offshoretackle.com. Check out the Offshore Tackle podcast. Check out the Offshore Tackle newsletter. And just check out their products, offshoretackle.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. You can hear us in Taos on WIOS 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. In fact, you can hear the show twice each weekend on WIOS. You can also hear the show twice each weekend on WSGW in Saginaw. That's 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now for this 3 hours, this little tiny corner of the building. I've unofficially dubbed it the Outdoor Magazine Studio. And I've got a graphic here behind me that if you look at the live stream from the studio, it points it out. And nobody has taken that graphic off the wall. So I'm standing by that this is the Outdoor Magazine Studio for this period of time. I'm here with Charlie Rood, doing a wonderful job as always. And you know what this means? Charlie. Yep, there they are. Charlie just turned around and waved to him. All the people out there chanting for Charlie. Chanting for Charlie, that's a cool slogan. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let them create an outdoor getaway in your backyard as they have for me. I have a call. Well, not a call. There's a work order in now for the folks at Reader that are going to come back over and trim up the ornamental trees around the corners of the house. They've gotten, quite overgrown throughout the summer, and it's time just to spruce them up. Now, I could do it, right? I have the ability to do it. I have the physical ability to do it. I have the ladder to do it. I have the pruning tools to do it. But why? Why would I want to? For every hour that the folks at Reader spend at my place, that's an hour I can spend out fishing. So why not let those guys do it? And they do a great job. They've done so many projects for me in the past. Reader is your one-stop shop. They are maintenance, they are planning, they are installation, and they are maintenance. Great people. ReaderLandscaping.com. That's ReaderLandscaping.com. This is the last show for the month of July. How does that happen? Next time we talk, it's going to be the month of August. What is the month of August? The month of August is kind of the last month of summer. I know you don't want to hear that, but in my world, like my grandkids are going back to school August 20th. It's like 3 weeks from now. That's well before the Labor Day weekend. So in some ways, time is running short to get those things done that you wanted, those trips that you wanted to take, those memories that you want to make. Now, I'm not saying you can't make memories in the fall, because you can make a lot of memories and you can make some wonderful memories. But, don't, and I'm talking to myself here, don't get so caught up in the day-to-day minutia of day-to-day stuff, of day-to-day living, of day-to-day work, that you don't get out and do the fun things. Don't forget, as long as we're thinking about timetables here, that July is the time to apply for your Michigan Fall Turkey Tag. You might say, well, I'm not a fall turkey hunter. If you're sitting out there bear hunting or deer hunting and a turkey walks by, aren't you going to wish you had a tag in your pocket? You can get those now. You can apply for those now. The golf outing, the first annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing is it's right around the corner. Depending on when you are listening to this, maybe it's already happened. As I sit here in the studio, we're just a few days away, and I am very excited. And I'm very excited to be able to work with so many good people to raise money for such a good cause. And by the good people, I'm talking about the golfers who signed up, the sponsors who signed up, and I will be listing those all next week in detail. MUCC for working with me, West Branch Country Club for working with us, and we're raising money for MUCC's youth camp to get kids involved in the outdoors. Is there more? I think it's a good, honorable goal. I think it's a good, I don't want to say charity, but I think it's a good group to be giving the money to, and I appreciate everybody's support on this. You have come together and helped me out with this tremendously, and I do certainly appreciate it. Now, if you could just come together and help my golf game, that I would appreciate as well. Don't forget about the online presence. I mean, this is the radio show, right? There is also a podcast version of it, but I do a lot of online stuff as well. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And I genuinely want to encourage you to use that email address to reach out to me. I think it's the best way to do it. Yes, there are social media messaging platforms, but to be honest with you, there are so many of them out there. They're kind of hit or miss. I don't feel like if you send me a message on social media that I can guarantee that I'm going to see it. If you send me an email to mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com, I will see that. It is my intent to respond to all emails. If you send me an email and I don't respond, and it's an email that, would suggest there is a response would be in order, send me a follow-up email. And in that follow-up email, in the subject line, put, "Hey, stupid." And then that way I will realize, okay, this is something that slipped through the cracks. I would ask you, though, don't in your initial email, don't send me the first email and go, "Hey, stupid." Or don't send me an email and then 2 hours later send me another email that says, "Hey, stupid." You got to give me time to respond. But that "Hey, stupid" will get my attention. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. Last week he had a sheephead recipe. I have no idea what this guy has planned for this week, but I can guarantee you this: it'll be good. That's the music that I hear in my head when I dream at night. Well, that's not the only music, but I hear that over and over. But it's good music, right? It's like, that's a story for another. Where that music came from is the story for another segment, and I will tell that story sometime here in the near future. But I don't want to cut into the time of wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. Now, last week, Dave joined me, and he gave us a sheephead recipe. And I've been thinking about this a lot because I throw sheephead back. I throw catfish back. But I've had people say sheephead is very good. Last weekend on the boat, I had a crew, and we caught 2 big catfish, and they said, we want to keep those catfish. So we filleted them up, and they sent me pictures of what their dinner looked like, and they looked wonderful. So I'm thinking, is there anything out there that you really can't cook up? Well, I think Chef Dave Minar can. He's with us once again. David, well, first of all, what do you have for us this week?
Well, we got a sheephead.
Another sheephead.
Right. Well, the last one in the series, and then we'll head to other freshwater fish.
Let me ask you this. Can we do a catfish recipe next week?
Absolutely. I got great catfish recipes.
Because honestly, I don't even like those slimy things in my boat. And I realize that I shouldn't say that because a lot of people love catfish and they're a wonderful quarry. But when you're targeting walleye, they cause problems. But the guys that we filleted them out for said they were absolutely wonderful. So let's do that next week. Right. And another sheephead, you say, this week.
Great. So we got on page 45. We did this for the TV show a long time ago. We used it for shark. It's called Madagascar shark.
Oh, yeah.
And it has the green peppercorns in it.
I like peppercorns.
Well, I know you do. So, actually, sheephead is a drum, and it's a predator fish. And, you're trolling for walleye, and you catch them. So, obviously, they eat live stuff, and they're not a bottom grubber or anything like that. So, you want boneless, skinless fillet. And now you want to skin this deep and cut away the red meat. It's a little teeny bit stronger, so you want to get rid of that. So once you do that, you're going to need about 8 to 10 ounces of fish per person. You need some flour, a medium onion diced very fine, a 12-ounce package of mushrooms sliced thin, and as much garlic as you prefer. I like a lot, so I'm going to use, say, maybe anywhere from 2 to 4 cloves diced up fine. A little heavy cream, a couple ounces. And if you like the flavor of the brandy, you can use that, but it's an optional an ingredient. And a couple 2 to 3 ounces of white wine, a jar of chicken gravy, and 1 to 2 tablespoons of green peppercorns. You can buy them in any good grocery store. By the olives and stuff like that, and more or less to taste, and some olive oil. So you're going to dredge the fish in flour, then in beaten up eggs, and in a real hot pan with a small amount of the olive oil, you're going to brown the fish on both sides. You want to start with the skin side up, so when you turn it over, the fillet side, the meat side is facing the diner. You want to slide that off to the side after you brown it up. Add the onions and the garlic and saute that around a little bit slowly because you don't want to burn that fish. And if you're going to use the brandy, you're going to flambe this away from your stove hood and light it on fire with a barbecue lighter if you want. Just don't get caught inside the poof, when it goes off. You can add the white wine, mushrooms, and peppercorns to taste. You can leave them whole, diced, smash them with the flat side of the knife, and you can distribute that throughout the dish a little bit, and add the chicken gravy and stir that around real good. Add the heavy cream, and then you don't want to overcook this. You just want to get this nicely done. Don't forget, it's going to cook a little bit more, so you want to reduce the heat down to a simmer. And then when it's done, you remove the fish to the plates, and then spoon the sauce all over the top of this. And if it needs to be a little thicker, you can reduce it down to when it's nice, thick, and creamy. So, boy, it is a killer dish for this anything, whether it be walleye or catfish or the sheephead. And you're going to really enjoy this if you like a little spicy of a dish. So,
well,
enjoy.
I have learned not to doubt you, because you have cooked up things for me, ranging, Asian carp you made for me one time, and I have to admit,
Right.
it was pretty good. But I can't wait to see what you do with the catfish next week, Dave.
All right, we'll make sure we can do a couple of recipes back to back if you want.
Sure, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
All right, David,
We'll
have a
spread
good
it
week. Yeah, have a good week. We'll talk to you next time.
Keep them sheephead.
Keep them sheephead. Wild game chef Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you. If you weren't listening, there'd be no reason for me to do this show. I don't know what I would do. Honestly, I don't. And so I appreciate your support. The website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Check the social media posts. Check out my weekly live streams. I do live from the studio every Wednesday morning at 8:45, and then every Wednesday night, 7 o'clock for Wednesday Night Live. Have a great week, my friends, and I will talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.